There you go. Now you're ready.
Good evening. I call this regular Board of Ed meeting to order at 6:02. And our first order of business is, well, first of all, welcome Walter to the board. But we're happy to have you. Thank you for volunteering your time and your talents with us. And our first order of business is to elect officers. Do we have a nomination for a slate of officers?
I will make a nomination to continue the current slate. Should I say Andy Serbo for chair, myself for vice chair, and John DeShazer for secretary.
I'll second that nomination.
And are there any nominations from the floor? Any discussion? Well, then we will go all in favor of the slate proposed by Virginia for Andy Serbo as board chair, Virginia Fesco, Dr. Virginia Fesco as vice chair, and John DeShazer as secretary. Please have a comment.
Aye.
Opposed? We have officers. Congratulations, and I now turn the meeting over to Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I just want to say again, welcome to Walter. Thank you very much for joining us. We're excited to have you on the board. The next order on our agenda, the next item on our agenda is public comment. Let me just double check to see if there's anyone virtually with us. Nope, just us. Okay. Then, with no public comment, we had planned a presentation from Jason Bureau from ACES tonight, but it looks as though they haven't been able to make it. So we'll keep moving on. And we'll move on to the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on November 14th. Everyone should have received that in their packet.
I think we need to hold this up till next month because we don't have a quorum of
People who were there.
It was only me and Mary Beth.
Right.
Nobody else. You weren't there. John wasn't there. So
Great, so we're
it's
great stuff going on.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess we'll table that to our next. Scott and I were both involved in the production of Clue at the hospital. That's fine.
So that's the last meeting.
Okay, moving on to correspondence. Although there isn't correspondence I wanted to tell you about that I received, I did want to read into the record a letter that I'd like to send to Sally Carr and Larry Hanifin. This is in response to the donation that they had made of the Dick and Jane posters. A few months ago, they Sally and Larry had generously offered some vintage reading posters to us, but after quite a bit of discussion, actually, a couple of meetings for the discussion, we decided that it wasn't the best fit for us here. So, but it was a very nice thing for them to offer, and so I wanted to send this letter, so I wanted to share it with you guys. Dear Sally and Larry, your very generous donation of vintage Dick and Jane posters was presented to the board last summer, and while they evoked feelings of nostalgia for some, we heard from a number of parents and staff members who objected to the posters being displayed at the school. They argued that the content was not relevant, the name Dick would be disruptive, and the children in the posters did not reflect the awareness of diversity we want to foster at Hotel. Not all board members agreed with these objections. However, we all agreed that we did not ignore the voice of our stakeholders. After lengthy discussions that which spanned 2 board meetings, the board decided not to accept the posters, suggesting that an exhibit at the Historical Society or library would be more appropriate. Please accept our gratitude for offering such a lovely gift to the school. In addition to being a wonderful historian, you have always been incredibly generous and devoted supporters of Hotel and Norfolk's children. Your continued interest and investment in the school is appreciated beyond measure. So that's the letter I'd like to send out with your, your blessing, with everyone's blessing. That's almost the board. Sally.
Yes, you summarized it great and framed our reasoning very well, so I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Then moving on to our next item, the superintendent's report.
Well, I had quite a lengthy report plan for you, but given that we have a presentation, I backed off. And then since we're missing almost half of our board, I thought it would be more appropriate to wait on a lot of these things so we have full complement of board members. But couple things I can share with you. We had an incident about a month ago where one of our boilers went down. And we've got 2 boilers and we were able to keep the building running. One boiler has to work harder to be turned on earlier, but we were good. They came, Friday is excellent. They came right away. They fixed the boiler. The next day, the second boiler went down. That caused me a little agita because had they both gone down at the same time, we would have had to evacuate school. We can't have school in November, December without heat. So I called Sean Pilati to say, you know, we've over the years been doing a lot of work on the boilers. You know, it's scary to think that we could have had both of them down at the same time. Can you tell me like what I should plan on in terms of replacing these boilers or what major repairs do we need to, you know, move forward with? He said, oh, Mary Beth, I've been saying for over a year now that those boilers have to be replaced. They're far out with real life expectancy. And I said, well, Sean, who did you say that to? Because this is news to me. And he went on to share that he with a couple people. But anyway, long story short, I did bring it to and shared it with Mike. I went to Board of Finance and the quote for the new boilers is over $166,000. But Matt has said that he will move forward with making sure that that process begins. Chances are by the time we get a second quote and parts are ordered and the work is done, it will not be done before the spring. So everybody cross your fingers and pray to God or Walter or somebody. And make it through the winter. So Pilati has been wonderful about, you know, coming out immediately if they have a problem and being able to catch him. So we need to make it through a couple more months. But that will be the last capital improvement project on our list. And we did agree that the 66,000, that the 66,000 and the non-lapsing account would go to cover a little over a third of that expense. So Matt and the Board of Finance are very grateful that that money is there. So
To give you a little background, do you know what about that non-lapsing account?
Yeah, I read about it in
Oh, thank you.
Matt's letter to Norfolk now or somewhere. Or somewhere.
Yeah, so that's money there's a certain percentage of the amount of money that's returned to the school
Yeah.
that's left over in the budget. That can be held back.
For things like this.
Would that drain the account then?
Yes, yeah. It'll cost more than what's in there,
Mhm.
but it'll at least be a nice chunk of it.
and given all the unexpected expenses that the town has had over the last couple of years, I'm glad we can help to offset that cost. A little good news, the final access points have been installed. The one out by facing the playground and the one on the corner of the parking lot. Yeah, the corner of the parking lot. Now we have connectivity everywhere because it's very bad cell service out there. But all that work has been done and we can pretty much hear everybody on the loudspeaker everywhere and can connect with cell phone. So in the event of an evacuation, we can communicate from pretty much everywhere.
So you're talking about Wi-Fi boosters or are you talking about cell boosters?
I'm talking about access points. Don't test me on this.
I think they're Wi-Fi access. No, I still don't
Yeah.
have it in the driveway.
Have you tried to connect to the hotel?
Yeah, I'm on the motel one, not the guest one.
And it didn't, no.
That's strange because, yeah, the one facing the upper parking lot and then the one down by the,
Yeah, I don't get it until I walk into school.
So I wonder if there's something new that you have to like refresh it because it's been,
Right.
like you probably set it up before the access points were.
Although Virginia, I will tell you, there are points in my office, I can't use my cell phone. So,
Yeah, no, I'm just talking about even Wi-Fi. It's
Oh.
like when I have meetings and I'm over something over Wi-Fi, it should carry here.
well, if you want to just check that out again and let me know, I will forward it to Ian and see if there's anything else we can do.
Maybe it's just certain devices or something.
Okay, well, the only other thing I have is our finance committee people out there. I think it's John and Ann and Amy, right now.
Yes.
So Amy's not here, but, we can connect with Amy maybe before, but I would like to have a preliminary meeting before the December break, just to share with the subcommittee where our budget is, given the numbers that we have. Just went to the insurance meeting on Thursday, and not good news. We're going from a 6.9 increase last year to an 11.5, which is really much lower than it would be if we weren't in the bigger cohort. So over the years, we've enlarged the group, so we have more bargaining power. But according to Brown and Brown, the figure based on our claims in the region and at hotel, it should have been about 22% increase. So 11.5 sounds good compared to 22, but it's double pretty much what we spent last year. But now we finished teaching negotiations, so we have the new contract, salary numbers, we have benefit numbers based on the people who are here. We won't have oil prices in time, but right now we're probably going to hold at the price that we had last year, which was 310, and hope that it's a little bit lower. But given what's going on in the Middle East, it's hard to tell. But at least I can share with the subcommittee where we are, what some of the increases are going to have to be outside of those areas. Another one being special ed once again. I think I brought to the board the fact that we had, after the budget passed last year, a student who was placed out, and we had some rough figures, but the child is in placement now, and the actual figures between tuition and transportation is just a little bit under $215,000. So we will be doing everything we can to mitigate that number. I don't think we can get it down to nothing, but what we typically do is, well, every year we do. We always look at different grants. We can't plan a budget on grants because number one, we don't know if we're going to get them. If we get them, how much they're going to be for, when we'll get the money. And most of them come with stipulations that you can't supplant the local budget. But when we get grant money, we look at the budget to say, okay, this budget line, professional development or instructional materials or improvement of instruction, it needs this grant money. So we're going to use this money to pay for that, which then leaves that money in the budget. So when the boiler part needs to be replaced or a special ed thing, we've got that money there to then cover the overages. And by the end of the year, we are able to balance our budget. And most years we have at least a little bit left over that we've given back to the town. So I believe there was only 1 year where, and again, it was special ed, where we had to go to the town and say, we can't cover this additional bill because, you know, and the town is always very gracious. They understand they have to pay for that. But like I said, we will do everything we can to reduce that money. And as always, we hope that perhaps that Danny might decide to do it. I'll have some people. But in any event, that's where we are with that.
So is this a new $215,000 cost, or is this a
This is,
this is a jump up from what was 100?
I had told you it would be close to 200,000, but it's going to be a little bit over that. It's not another student, it's the one that we talked about. As a matter of fact, we discussed going to Board of Finance and sharing that we had this unexpected, but Amy and I went to the meeting, and it was a meeting where Amy and I looked at each other and said, this isn't the time to do it. And then Amy wasn't able to make the last one, and I thought after the boiler news, I wasn't going to do it. So,
And this is a student that's here this year. This is
well,
a-
they're placed out, but they live in,
Right, okay. But this
it
isn't this
lives
year's
in
budget.
Norfolk, and it. So
I mean, it's
in
no-
this
this
budget,
cost.
but it wasn't budgeted for this year.
Understood.
So it's an unexpected, unanticipated expense that needs to be paid, and there's no money budgeted for that, but we'll see what we can do to offset that, as the year goes on. And that's really all I have that I think is good for tonight. I know there's a middle school concert, so perhaps we can move on and get Ian over there.
Does anybody have any questions about the middle story?
The right can give it, the left can take it away.
have to pay the Steve our crack one? How much money?
The what?
The correct one.
That's the
Oh,
outplacement.
that's the outplacement cost.
That's the quarterly.
For expense for tuition. For the student that we talked about, yeah. That's
A big thing. So is that right? So it's like the Hartford area? Is that what?
Isn't it, Liz? That's
It's
the outplace
outplaced
school is in
in
the
the
correct, under the correct umbrella.
Okay.
So I believe the school is actually closer to, you know what the town is? It's in Bloomfield.
Bloomfield, yeah.
Oh, okay. Windsor, on Bloomfield.
When they're from, okay. Thank you. I was just like, that's a heck of a lot of money for one check. And it's quarterly. Oh. Okay.
That's the 250.
That's not a transfer.
Oh, that wasn't.
No, it's a split parent situation, so halftime here, halftime with mom, with mom. We don't pay. It's a Tuesdays, there's no transportation. It's like every other Monday, every Thursday drop off, every Friday.
So, but we
Yeah,
don't
no.
share the cost of the.
With the other parents' town.
No,
Not required.
no.
As long as a child
Seems not right.
spends 50% of their time in the district with this parent, and that's where they come to school, we become the nexus. And we have sole responsibility.
I feel like we should engage our math professionals to think about the equation, because that seems.
Well, it would be legislative
Right.
because
Sure.
they're the ones that make those rules.
Right, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Oh, and I will say though, that for the first time, we will be eligible for excess cost. So when we look at the cost per pupil in Norfolk, 4.5 times that amount gives us a number. Anything over that number, we are eligible for, is it 60 or 70% reimbursement from the state if that line item for the state is fully funded. So we might, and it will go back directly to the town, and it might be as much as $30,000 or $40,000 that ends up coming back to the town. So that 215 will be somewhat reduced by the excess cost contribution from the state.
So is that do we have to apply for that, or that simply?
Shared services will facilitate all of that.
It's like taxes, it's the percentage over the X amount, whatever
Yes.
our 4 times is.
Yeah.
Not the whole.
No, no, the difference between 4.5 times per pupil cost and the actual cost. Yeah. It's something.
Okay, all right, thank you. Principal's report?
So, just a few updates there about conferences. We participated again in the CCMC PJ Day fundraiser. We had a visit from Marie Christine Perry, and she gave our students an overview of the importance of the food pantry in town to kick off Student Council's food drive. If you subscribe to their Facebook page, there was a really great write-up that she put in there about Hotel and our students along with a picture. So I encourage you to read that. We have the Lions Club every year. They come and do an eye screening that was completed last week, and legislatively, all schools are required to have a sexual abuse awareness and prevention program to teach students about this topic and how to, stand up for themselves. That is being facilitated by Ashley Bono, our school psychologist, Melissa Duxis, our school social worker, and Keandra Dillard, our nurse. We have those following upcoming events, and I would like to highlight that Miss Crush is bringing the chorus to Meadowbrook on the 18th. They're going right after lunch for a little concert. And thanks again to the PTO who's sponsoring the holiday fair on those dates, or students can purchase little items for their family and friends. And you all will be invited, as will town officials and families, to the winter sing-along concert on the 22nd, which is at 2. That will bring us to the end of the 23 year.
Wow.
Hard to believe.
So the chorus concert on the 18th, what time is, oh, you said it was after lunch.
Yes, so they're going to be there at about 1 o'clock,
And this is not band, it's just chorus.
just chorus. Band will be playing a couple of songs at the sing-along.
It'd be great to take a little video of that.
Yeah.
That trip to Meadowbrook. Thank you, that's great.
Maybe I will
Great
accompany them.
That's fantastic.
I think so, Tom.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for the principal?
Oh, the, eye screening, are they sending home the, usually get the reports?
I think they will. I don't know when that happens, but yes. I think especially if anything comes out as needing attention,
Right, then they
parents
send
will
it.
definitely, yeah.
Okay, standing committee, reports. Actually, before we go over those reports, I know not everybody's here today, but one of the things I wanted to talk about today was setting our dates for those committee meetings. Now, those meetings are done on a regular schedule for most of them, so I feel like we can just kind of go through and confirm them. But I also wanted to ask Walter, which committees he might have interest in. So, as you'll see, we have quite a few committees, and we usually ask that our board members are on like 2 or 3 committees. Donna is no longer with us. Well, that doesn't sound right. She's
She's down the
so a natural thing would be for you to slide into her places, but if there are things that are more interest to you, I thought I would kind of take an interest poll today, and then I'll send some email around to our committee in general and see if anyone's interested in moving to a different committee or what their thoughts are.
Oh, I basically spent 30 years as a corporate finance attorney. So I suspect that finance and negotiation would probably be the 2 where my skill set would fit, probably dovetail best.
That's great, that's great. Well, so going into Donna's spot, would you be?
Well, if I'm the chair.
It's easy, the teaching negotiations are done.
Well, so, and the major, so as you already know, the chairs, what their major thing that they have to do is to kind of to set the schedule, then they send out the agenda, and they also communicate that what's happening to Kathy, who communicates it to the town properly. Okay, but all right, I heard you. So personnel negotiations and finance. Okay.
Although there's just a little bit of a red flag here, because if we have 4 board members on.
Yeah,
the
so
committee,
something will have
it
to
becomes
change
a
there.
board, we can't have 4, it becomes a quorum, and then it becomes an official meeting. So if Walter were to go on, somebody would have to come off.
Well, Anne's on a lot.
So maybe I come off, or maybe I'll talk to Amy and see what her thoughts are.
Yeah,
Also,
I liked having her on there though, because she was on the board of finance. So she knows-
Right, and she's the
Yes.
liaison to finance, or board of
Right,
finance, right? So that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, you could probably come off, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4.
Let's just make the decision. No, I'm happy with that. Come off like this. And they'll have Walter move in there, and Walter can go on personal negotiations, but not as the chair. And maybe I may ask Jay if he's interested in chairing. You want to chair that? Or maybe I have. What's that?
You don't have to come off personal.
No, I know.
Right.
Yeah. I know.
But Jay already chaired her policy.
Oh, yeah, I heard you guys.
Well, it won't happen.
For 3 years.
For
Yeah.
3 years, so we've a long.
So I
time.
guess I'll take that. I'll do that. All right, Kathy, so you can mark me as chair and add Walter, take Donna off. Curriculum and technology can stay the same. Finance will take me out and add Walter. Policy can stay the same. Communication stay the same. How about health and wellness?
We don't need 3 board members on.
All right, so we'll just
So
go.
we can just take Donna off.
Just take them off.
like, we do have to have certain roles and responsibilities, but we're gonna need 3 board members. And since both Janet and I are the parents, we fill those slots.
Gotcha. I wanted to ask you, for the PTO, is it Mondays that you're not able to make it?
Yeah.
So I wonder if Amy would be willing to,
Yeah, I think
move
so.
into that liaison position there.
Yeah.
And again, I will send her an email to confirm that. So I'll send an email to confirm that and then I'll let you know.
Okay.
And I think she'd probably still be willing to be the Board of Finance liaison, but I wonder, Walter, if you might be interested in taking up.
I have a history with Michael Scott, because I would probably not be the person you would want in that.
For that reason alone.
So, John, you have been a very excellent Board of Finance. Well, I'll email everyone and see, because those are things I can do individually. But- Okay, great.
And just don't don't reply all in the PS.
Right.
Yeah, I put it in the PS today, but
You can see CC people instead of directly.
No, I'm not allowed.
I'm
to.
not allowed to.
Yeah. So you're,
On the school board only, because.
no, on every board.
you're not supposed to be CC'd. You're not
Yeah, that's
supposed to.
And that's important to know, and we can chat and I will, try to do some orientation that helps you, but any communication, email, otherwise becomes applicable.
Yeah, I should go to the board.
If there are, with our board, if it shows IL becomes a meeting and a illegal meeting. So a rule of thumb to never reply all, and,
Went 3 or more of you would have to conduct. My problem, my chair, so that's what it feels, it's a 3-person board, so even if 2 of us
Yeah.
talk about anything,
Yeah, you're
it's a
still-
board meeting,
yeah.
so
Hmm.
I am beating my 2 members over the head. So, I feel your pain.
Also, we stick to using our whole child email.
Good.
So this set up.
it's all
You
set
can
up,
Yep.
you're good.
Yes. Information.
And that's, remind me, I go to the selectmen's meeting. That's not that Henry's on the selectmen. When is it? About the emails. Excellent. Like town boards having town emails. Yeah. If they should, and that they should not be stored on outside servers.
Sounds good to me. Okay, all right, great. So we have, just to review quickly the, kind of our calendar. Personnel negotiations meets as necessary, that we kind of just meet around the times when there are negotiations.
So it's a 3-year contract, at least just done it into this stuff.
That's right.
Mhm.
Curriculum and technology.
We only have 2 unions in the, so it's the custodians and the teachers, and they both just settle the contract.
But if there's a new person, then that person has to be. So,
But then if the teacher is
Right.
hired, then that's not, that they just enter the.
Oh,
teacher
Right,
contract.
it's administrators, so like
Yeah.
if they have ever do a search for an administrator, that.
Then that, yeah, then that can be.
And the
For
teacher
administrators.
hires, they just operate under the.
Right. The curriculum and technology, first Tuesdays at 3:30, that seems like it's been going pretty well.
Yeah, as long as, because Amy chairs it, as long as she can make it, then that's fine.
And I did double check with them, she said that was.
Okay.
Policy seems like you guys have been meeting pretty successfully, and I know that policy has now been kind of moved to that other.
Shipment program.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and
that-
we're in the process of doing all that transition. It's taking a little longer than we thought it would, things that we just needed to do. And it was just a good time for all of us to really go through everything, but it's gonna eliminate a lot of work for policy, which is probably not a bad thing. So. Okay.
Our communications, I think the schedule can work, but we have to get better about it. Because we're like.
I'm not the
0%,
chairperson, so I don't want to be
I
like
know.
responsible.
I know, Janet's not here. I had on here to lecture Janet,
talking to each other.
communicate about that.
Well, stuff because Janet works nights, and her schedule is not consistent whatsoever, so that's, I mean, we can talk to her and find out. The same with, I want to ask her about health and wellness because she gets home at like 8 o'clock in the morning and goes to bed. So like 9 a.m. meetings are kind of tough for her, but I know that it works best for you guys and the teachers and Ashley.
I mean, if it's during the day at any time, I think it would be fine. I mean, even if we met at 2:30, what do you think?
Yeah, because that's a committee that is, Virginia said earlier, has some required people who need to be represented. And so we need to have that on during this contractual school day, so that our school psychologist and our teacher can be there. So whatever time is agreeable to, and if Lauren can finesse the coverage piece of it, then
Okay, I'll ask Janet and see if a time works better for her than mine.
And then on the last thing I was gonna ask about the bag committee. Do you guys feel like we still need to have that here as a regular item? Or, I mean, we're always open to having community members talk with us, and those things can be brought up on a regular basis, but like, I don't know if we just need to have it as part of our standard.
I don't know, now that Lauren's on the EDC and she's working a lot with the foundation and the net, which
Yeah.
are really.
That was the idea, was just.
Right, but also the Board of Finance people that were on it are not on the Board of Finance. anymore.
Right.
So unless we like revitalize that.
Well, I mean, this was an outreach committee idea, and we worked on outreach in other ways, that seems like it's pretty successful right now. So, I would like to propose kind of removing that from our regular practice of talking about it each month, and if we need to bring it back into, bring it back up.
Rotation,
Yeah, bring it back into rotation.
I'm fine with that, if Sean's fine with it.
It was an ad hoc committee, so those are
Same thing.
same thing. Go ahead. It's my focus. Okay,
Is there anybody in this field reports besides, I think we did help, that could do helping members?
I think that's the only one.
Or should I do, if we do help and wellness next month, doesn't really. If you want to people to hear it.
Then why don't you go through health and wellness and, yeah, I think, yeah, that'd be great.
Because I have 10 minutes, okay. You don't have any COVID, flu, or RSV in the building? Yeah, I know, right? We're not required to test for COVID or ask students to test. So if they aren't showing symptoms, there's really nothing you can do anyway. So there's just that going on. I'm trying to read the agenda in my head.
We talked about, the tests, we talked about, Brooker Memorial, we talked about Narcan,
The Narcan.
we talked about.
So I'll just briefly talk about the Narcan training, the net, Norfolk
Yeah,
net, right, not
The
the
net brought
foundation.
it up, yep.
Reached out to Lauren about doing training and maybe even having Narcan here, which, some people might say, well, it's an elementary school, you don't need it, but as
Members come in as well.
right. But also like, you don't even have to inject or ingest fentanyl to be affected by it. You can just touch it or breathe it in. So, I think just having it on site and having trained people that can administer it in an emergency is better than waiting for 911 to come, because those minutes are vital. So, Lauren's going to do a little bit more research on finding out more about
Yeah.
that. And yeah, right.
Yeah.
Sorry. It is about like, who can get trained, because it's not, you don't want to train everybody, right? You just like some certain point people in the building, getting a script from Dr. Burkell from Northwest Hills, and keeping it in the building and accessible. So,
and I brought that up this afternoon to the superintendent meeting that we have on the first Tuesday of the month. And I asked if anybody else wasn't other than the high school, middle school. They said no. And I shared some of our conversation, and they are all very much now, we're going to go back to their buildings and have that conversation. And Jim, Augustine brought up the point, he said, it is true that just exposure can be fatal. And our kids share buses with Region 7. So it's really, it's another opportunity. And then Keandra shared with me, she said, did you see the article? An 8-month-old baby died. They went to an Airbnb where previous renters had fentanyl and the baby was exposed and died. So it doesn't have to be ingested or injected or any such thing to be fatal. So I think it's really, a smart idea for us to have that available and to do the training for the remote possibility.
And I don't know about children and their exposure to it, but Narcan itself is not dangerous. I mean,
Right.
you can take it even if you don't have exposure to
Right.
opioids. It's not harmful to take it.
It was no
Without
harm,
having
right?
Yeah, I was explaining how sometimes some type 1 diabetics, people will think that they're overdosing, it's just their blood sugar is low when you get Narcan, which doesn't help them get their blood sugar up, but it doesn't harm them at the same time.
Teaching your parts next to
Right,
it.
so they
Next
are,
to Narcan.
yeah. Well, Kendra said she does have juice and fruit snacks, so we're good on that. The other thing is Brooker Memorial is gonna be doing their, the teeth, not assessments, what's that called? Screenings, thank you. And then for any children that needed like cleanings and stuff like that and evaluations, I'm just gonna reach out again to get more feedback from parents and signups. So, and that is part of the, how many year grant was it? A 5-year grant?
Yeah.
It
Right,
must be.
but we
yeah.
paused it through COVID, so it's, yeah,
Must be close.
it's almost being done, yeah. So,
Well, it's a great program. I mean, right, when we get to the end of it, we should see if there's a way to continue that because it's a great service to our kids.
and Sally, who runs our cafe cafeteria, she's also now on the committee, which is good because of, wellness of children involves feeding them. And she works with Ed Advance and Full World, and they share fresh produce, and she gets great feedback from the kids about the fresh food that's not coming from California, it's coming locally. Right.
That's great. So, excellent. Well, thank you very much. I know that we are moving quickly through our agenda tonight. Just one thing I wanted to, things I want to just put in everyone's mind for maybe next time. We're coming up to a new year, and I think that's a good time for us to revisit or to reach out again to Colebrook and to establish that connection again. They have a new board chair, they have a new selectman. They've got some new stuff going on.
Really?
So I think this is a good time for us to make that overture again. So I'm going to be looking towards that. I also, Lauren, while I have you here, I wanted to follow up with the EDC about that idea of the PR video, the podcast, and see if there has been any progress in that, or if they need us to make some motion in that direction, or how it is that we can kind of move that ball forward.
I can ask, we're meeting next week. There has not been any, forward motion on that to my knowledge.
Okay.
But I can certainly ask.
Okay, great. I know those guys well, and I'd be happy to be involved in that.
Okay.
And this is what really for communication for me, but sort of like in 2024 would be great for us to kind of have a good tight social media plan and a website. So those are things that I want to kind of put out there for upcoming talks. Okay, well,
We have to do
oh, that's right. We've got our new calendar to look through.
So one of the things that we discussed with the chapter committee was the April break question. And there was consensus across all schools that we do the week of the 14th, which includes Good Friday. So that would be consistent with what everybody else is doing.
Right. That was what you discussed at your superintendent meeting.
I really wish we had like off of Monday after Easter, 'cause that's always fun.
Well,
We used to have Easter Monday off as a kid, but I went to Catholic school, so.
it's nice to have the week after a holiday off for the day at least, but
Mondays are hard.
well, if you can find another day that we can put school in and take that off, you could talk about it.
So how does this dive with the other Region 7 schools
They're all consistent, very consistent.
and the Northwestern too?
Yeah, they all do, they all.
But Northwestern's parent-teacher conferences are different in November.
Right, the conference days, we can't.
That's probably.
Yeah,
I think for parents too, right?
Yeah.
That they don't have to be in 2 places.
Exactly.
and they don't have the same, the only dismissal days for PD that we do, but the major breaks, the holiday breaks are all the same. We don't all have the same start date, end date either, because some of them, many of them, if not all of them, have a 182-day calendar. So they tend to want to start earlier And, but in terms of the April break, that's usually the big question, so that everybody's aligned, because the daycare and vacations and all the families that we share, so
But this year, spring break is the first week of April.
it's the week after Easter this year.
Just to let you know, Juneteenth is now a federal holiday, although we're not scheduled right now. If we run into snow days, we should be aware that,
Well, it's a federal holiday, but I understood that municipalities did not have to, put that as a day off.
see, we have to add it to our calendar at work.
I'll double check, but I don't believe we are required to take 219 off at a local level.
Okay. Yeah, we got rid of President's Day and had to substitute it for Juneteenth.
Okay, so with that review of the calendar, would anyone like to make a motion to approve this 24-25 school?
I would agree with it.
All right, Walter. And no, this for musical.
Oh, yeah.
Well, this is next year.
No, I know.
This is.
So
But
next
so-
year we can change the music.
Yes, first, anyway, whatever, I'll second that.
And approval. Okay, for the motion made second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, and with that, I believe that we finished our agenda.
I will make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
All those in favor? All right, thank you very much.
Laura, you're working with EDC.
Yes, and the Norfolk Net.
Well, congratulations, because last couple of months, I have seen more about the town than I've seen in like the last 10 years.
Yeah.
I think it's really fantastic.